XL නම් භාගයයි මාසයකට වඩා රිදි සුවතයි.
Tonight, no time to relax. While noting a reduction in daily cases, authorities, however, warn the public not to rest on their laurels. Dodgy testing. A ban on arrivals slapped on 6 Middle Eastern countries as increasing positive arrivals raise concerns. To the letter. Cabinet spokesperson cites US administration's Blackwater pardons while assuring full presidential adherence to constitutional provisions.
Whatever the PCRs they have supposed to have done and given the certificates is a question of validity of those.
Prodigal sons. The 3 errant Sri Lankan national players allegedly given economy class seats arrive home straight into quarantine. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Tuesday, the 29th of June, 2021.
Signal Charcoal Lemon Dantalepaya. Suduwan Daddipalak Labade. Sirilaka Sina Surakeva.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammike Kanaka. Now, despite daily cases seeing a marked reduction in recent days, authorities are reminding the public not to take things lightly and let their guard down, as it would take only a few days of complacency to reverse the current situation. Deputy Director General of Education and Research at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hemantha Herath, once again warned that how things go from here remains in the hands of the people. Meanwhile, in some good news for everyone awaiting AstraZeneca's second doses, a decision is to be announced in the coming weeks on the use of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines as a replacement following the international approval for mixing and matching the vaccines.
The Advisory Committee on Communicable Diseases at the Ministry of Health granted approval yesterday for the usage of Pfizer and Moderna vaccines in place of the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Director General of Health Dr. Asela Gunawardena today spoke on the process related to the decision.
The timeline and how we are going to give these vaccines will be announced by the Ministry of Health in near future when we receive the stocks of both vaccines. So the next decision that they have endorsed was now some of the countries are reserving vaccine for a booster dose as a third dose. So they have given the green light to reserve the third dose as a booster dose for the future vaccination program.
Meanwhile, as of last evening, 2,636,524 people have obtained at least a single dose of any vaccine, while of that figure, 939,472 people are completely inoculated with both vaccine doses. As per the figures released by the Epidemiology Unit last evening, first dose receivers of the AstraZeneca vaccine stand at 925,242, while 374,040 of them have obtained both vaccine doses. In addition, 1,596,487 people have received the first dose of the Sinopharm vaccine, and of that number, 551,007 have been given both doses. In the meantime, 114,795 people have obtained their first dose of the Sputnik vaccine, while 14,425 of them have received both doses. In more news, 1,890 COVID-19 infections were detected from Sri Lanka yesterday, while 40 of them were foreign arrivals. Out of the 1,850 district-based infections, the highest number came from Gampaha at 337 cases, with Kaltara second on the list with 268. In addition, 198 cases were confirmed from Ratnapura, 194 from Colombo, 138 from Galle, 121 from Jaffna, 87 from Batiklo, 79 from Kegol, and 66 from Nuwara Eliya. The remaining 16 districts accounted for 362 infections.
We have observed considerable reduction of new cases reported in a given day. However, we know that the numbers are still very high compared to what we have observed in the past. We cannot be complacent, and we have to take the current numbers also very seriously and have to adhere to our health guidelines, and thereby reducing the chances of spreading the disease where you are also involved, and thereby we are expecting gradual reduction from these days onward. However, these numbers, these reduction now we are observing, cannot predict that this will continue unless we are very sure that we are adhering to the health guidelines.
Meanwhile, Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardena had this to say pertaining to the infection suspected to be of the Delta variant being identified over the last few days.
We found 3 suspected cases who were the contacts of the first case where we found at Madivela, and these 3 people are already taken for the treatment, and still their gene sequencing results are pending. And first contacts of these suspects, some of the suspects PCR results were yesterday we got, but none of these first contacts people were found to have any Delta variant. There are few people are positive, but it is not the suspecting Delta variant.
On the active cases front in the island, there are 30,372 cases at present, following the confirmation of 1,320 fresh infections during the day so far. Sri Lanka's COVID-19 recoveries meanwhile also rose today by 2,222, taking the overall total to 223,471.
ගෙදරකට තේ හදනවා කියන්නේ වෙනම වැඩක්. මෙලිබන් තේ ගෙදර පදමට තේ.
Now, the Civil Aviation Authority has banned arrivals of passengers with a travel history within the last 14 days in several Middle Eastern countries. The ban will come into effect from the 1st of July and last until the 13th of July. However, the ban on passengers from several African countries, which was imposed yesterday, will remain in effect until the 1st of July or from the 1st of July until the 31st.
The government yesterday decided to ban arrivals from several African countries with a travel history to those countries within the last 14 days. On the heels of that move, it was announced that similar actions will be taken on travellers from 6 Middle Eastern countries as well, covering Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain and Oman. However, travellers with transit in those Middle Eastern countries will be allowed entry to the island.
This ban will be effective from the 1st of July until the 13th of July 2021. Transiting through these states is permitted even though during this period of the ban. There were certain other countries from the southern African region that were also subject to certain bans. Those states are Angola, Botswana, Lesotho, Mozambique, Namibia, Zambia, Swaziland and Zimbabwe. This ban will be effective from the 1st of July to 31st July 2021. Transiting through these states will not be possible. This ban will be effective for all nationalities.
In the meantime, the Philippines has extended the travel ban for all inbound travellers from Sri Lanka and several other countries until the 15th of July. A spokesperson for the President of the Philippines has said that the move was made to control the spread of the Delta variant. Meanwhile, in other measures to control the virus spread, several areas in Colombo and the Gampar districts were isolated this morning. Accordingly, the Singapura GN division of the Colonau police area in the Colombo district was isolated at 6 a.m. with the exception of the Sun Hind Seventh housing scheme. In the Gampar district, the GN division of Galburalda 100 Watta entered isolation this morning. In the meantime, several areas that were isolated due to the surge in infections were brought out of isolation this morning. In the Kotmale police area in Nuvarelia district, the GN divisions of Kaludamada, Hapgastalava, Virapura and Pahalagoraka-Oya were brought out of isolation. Meanwhile, in the Gampar district, the isolation of the Yatihema GN division was lifted. However, the Polhena Road, Lakeview Road and a section of the BOI Road running up to the turn towards the Vavapara remain isolated until further notice. Further, the Siambalape Watta GN division was also brought out of isolation, excluding the Upul Vasanta Mawata, Devala Road, Aryadasa Vitanage Mawata, the area at the end of Aryadasa Vitanage Mawata, and the Siambalape Watta Kaduboda Road. Further, the Boltuluwa village in the Gaul district and the new Valatapitia village in the Ampara district were also brought out of isolation. Meanwhile, the isolation of the GN divisions of the Miravodi East, Miravodi West and Manchole Baduria in the Batiklo district was lifted today.
Ambassador of Switzerland to Sri Lanka, Dominic Fergler, who called on Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa yesterday at Temple Trees, has handed over medical supplies donated by the Swiss government to Sri Lanka. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa thanked the people of Switzerland for the generous donation and stressed the importance of continuing the already strong cooperation between the two countries. The humanitarian assistance contained medical supplies amounting to over $4 million, including oxygen concentrators, ventilators and antigen test kits, among other supplies that would assist the Sri Lankan government's efforts in containing the COVID pandemic. The two delegations discussed the need to reactivate the Sri Lanka-Swiss Parliamentary Friendship Association and conduct programs between parliamentary members of both countries, as has been successfully done in the past. Now then, the government questions the validity of some of the PCR reports given to passengers from the 6 Middle Eastern countries whose passengers the country banned from entry. Now, speaking at the Cabinet media briefing today, Cabinet spokesperson Kehilia Rambukwala also said that the situation arouses suspicion and should have room for investigation. Meanwhile, touching on the recent presidential pardons, Minister Rambukwala insisted that they were done by the head of state while following the relevant provisions to the letter. Cabinet spokesperson Kehilia Rambukwala was today quizzed on the decision taken by the government to ban entry for passengers with travel history to 6 Middle Eastern countries.
A decision was taken yesterday because yesterday out of the people who came, 110 was positive. So we have a concern now because from the other end, whatever the PCRs they have supposed to have done and given the certificates, is a question of validity of those, because with a 3 hours or a 3.5 hours flight, when you land here, when you find numbers like 100 plus, then of course it is a concern. So as a temporary measure, we have stopped it, but we will look into the larger story of it as to how. Certain airlines, definitely we have not found anybody, but on certain airlines, we find this. So there should be some room for some investigation, and there is a necessity for us to investigate into it and see, because we have already brought about over 200,000 people already. We continue to do so, but suddenly we find that the numbers are increasing. The other side of the coin is that the general public is also blaming us that you are bringing all these people who are infected, and we are doing nothing. So we need to look into it seriously, and it's a temporary measure for the moment. Yesterday we took this decision based on the figures that was given to us at the cabinet. I think this is a concern that we need to bring them, but also we need to also look at the health sectors in Sri Lanka as to how, because by this coming month, we will have 6.5 million vaccines coming in. So we are looking at completely within the next 2-3 months to vaccinate 65 to 70% of the population. In spite of it, if we have people coming in with various variants, we need to be cautious, because it is in the best interest of the citizens of this country that we have taken temporary that decision.
He also had this to say about the recent presidential pardons.
It has been the practice all over the world. Even if you look at in America, the 5-star democracy, Blackwater, the mercenaries were pardoned by last administration of the US. So basically, if they are facing this, then we'll have to have an explanation on the double standard that they are practicing. And whatever the pardons that we are given, the president has followed to the last letter of all the provisions that are available. And it is a prerogative of the president. And it has happened all over the world. Within the constitution, the provisions are used.
As for cabinet decisions, the ministers have decided to continue providing concessions for tourism sector establishments affected by the pandemic situation. The move will result in employees being proportionately called to work, and if any are forced to stay at home, they will be paid the greater sum between 50% of the last paid salary or 14,500 rupees. Contribution to the EPF and the ETF will also be made pertaining to the relevant payment, and the said measures will be effective until the end of June. Meanwhile, the go-ahead has also been given to continue reliefs given to establishments in the tourism sector from July to the end of December this year. The Cabinet has also given approval to implement awareness programs across audio, visual, print and digital media for educating the farming community and the youth, as well as other relevant parties, on the importance of production and use of organic and natural fertilizer. Facilitation of the legal process on the ocean devastation caused due to the fire erupted aboard the MV Express Pearl is also approved. The Cabinet has meanwhile given the go-ahead to make an order including necessary provisions to award additional interest rate for special deposit accounts that are reinvested for a period of more than 12 months. Another proposal given the green light is to obtain financial assistance from the Asian Development Bank for the responsive COVID-19 vaccines for recovery project. The government has planned to obtain a loan of $150 million from the Asian Development Bank to implement the project. $84 million is expected to be obtained from the Asia Pacific Vaccine Access Facility and the remaining $66 million from the standard local allocation of the Ordinary Capital Resources Fund of the Asian Development Bank. The total cost of the project is $161.85 million and the government will bear the $11.85 million balance. Now in other local stories, a woman in Kandy who had inhumanely assaulted 3 special needs vocational centre minors who had been seconded for on-the-job training at a confectionery factory have been arrested by the Kandy police. The suspect had also sexually assaulted one of the victims, which was revealed after 2 victims escaped and revealed all to his parents.
Police in Kandy have arrested a woman in the Bhairavakanda area for assaulting and sexually abusing minors from a vocational training centre for children with special needs. The victims were 3 male minors studying at the Government Vocation Training Institute for Special Needs Children in Katavala, Kandy. According to police reports, the 3 victims had been seconded to a confectionery production factory for further training when they encountered the suspect. According to victim accounts, it was here that they came into contact with the suspect, who then brutally assaulted them and had even prevented them from returning to their homes. Unable to take further abuse, 2 of the victims had escaped and informed the 3rd victim's parents, revealing to them the woman's sexual assault on him as well. Following this, the parents had lodged a complaint with the Kandy police, who launched an investigation and succeeded in rescuing the 3rd victim from the factory yesterday, who was then referred for a medical examination. Meanwhile, the owner of the factory subsequently surrendered to the police today, where further investigations uncovered rape allegations against him, which is still being heard in court.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the all-share price index fell by 21.20 points to end at 7,856.64, and the S&P SL 20 index of more liquid stocks ended lower at 3,002.96 after losing 34.82 points. The market turnover was 2.3 billion rupees. Now, here's Dimantha Matthew with an update on the daily market performance.
We've seen a continuous uptrend in the market during the past couple of weeks on a continuous basis. So after that, there was an expectation that the market is likely to have a bit of a profit taking and some selling pressure, especially from the retail investor segment. So this was something that was happening today. So we saw significant selling pressure coming back into the market, and this selling pressure was increasing on a continuous basis, and with that the gains that were there in the market during the day was erased and the market returned to the negative. The dip was primarily led by profit taking in most of the retail favorite counters. There seems to be selling pressure coming in these set of counters, and in addition to that, some of the illiquid counters that moved up is also declining in value. Turnover levels were actually high during the day of 2.3 billion rupees.
In the meantime, the rupee closed at 202.89 cents against the US dollars today, after closing at the same levels yesterday. Now let's take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. The irresponsible trio of Sri Lankan cricketers who breached the bio bubble while wandering the streets of Durham returned to the country today. The Sri Lanka cricket said yesterday that the three players, Vice-Captain Kusal Mendis, Danushka Gunatilaka and Niroshan Dikwala, have been suspended from all forms of cricket until an inquiry is concluded. Though national cricketers are usually flown in business class, it is reported the errant trio were flown back in economy class. Upon arrival, they were sent to a hotel in Negombo for quarantine. A video posted on social media showed the three players being on the streets of Durham sans face masks. It also appeared that one player had a pack of cigarettes in his hand. The footage had been captured on the very evening when the side lost the third and final T20 international, surrendering a series 3-0 to the hosts. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.